Hey, welcome guys. In this video I'm doing a review of the Sony UBP-X800 4K Blu-ray media player. So the size of it is 17 by 2 by 10.5 inches, which is pretty average for a 4K Blu-ray media player. What I find really bizarre about this Blu-ray media player is that you'll notice that when I eject the disc tray, the entire front panel moves forward, which is incredibly bizarre. What's more is that this is not exactly Sony's best looking device. Usually they do a good job, but this one looks like a VCR for some reason. Not the strongest effort from the company. Now if the way it looks doesn't bother you, that's fine, but over on the front right side, just below the power and eject button, is the only USB port, which is covered by a flap. This makes absolutely no sense why they have that annoying flap there, which makes it look pretty ugly when it's open. So switching over to the back, starting on the left side, we have the power cord, which is attached and is about 5 feet long, and the good thing about the other power end is that it's not thick and wide. It takes up only one port on a power bar outlet, as well as HDMI output for audio and video, and a second HDMI port for audio only. And next to that, finally, we have the Dolby Digital coaxial output, although I do wish there's an audio optical port as well. Now this does support Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and the Wi-Fi does support 2.4 and 5 GHz signal. And it does support, in terms of audio, Dolby Atmos, Dolby True HD decoding of 7.1 channels, as well as DTS-X audio. So the remote control is kind of weird. So it's compact, it's neat where it needs to be, but it's completely flat at the back. There's actually no curvature at all, which is kind of weird when you're holding it. It doesn't feel the most comfortable, but the remote is a good size, and where your thumb is meant to be placed in the up, down, left, right enter button, you also have easy control access to, say, play, pause, the Netflix buttons, as well as those color-coded buttons near the top, which are very app specific. They have unique features depending on what you're doing. So the remote is a mixed bag of sorts, because it functions well, but it's not that comfortable. So on the Sony website, it actually has a section for power consumption for this device, but it doesn't list it. I think someone forgot to write how much juice this thing actually consumes. So what you guys are seeing is the main primary interface, but we'll jump over to the setup section, which is basically the settings. I just want to give you a quick overview. It can get very granular. There's a lot of details, a lot of information you can go through and customize here. So I just want to give you a quick overview that it can get very detailed if you need it to be. Over on the left you have featured apps, and over on the right you have my apps. Now whether you go to this plus button or all apps at the top right, it'll give you the same amount of apps to choose from. These are all the apps that are available. There's not a lot, but you do have the core apps like Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, YouTube, Spotify. You can always customize the filtering, but again, it's just the same apps that I showed you on the main screen. So if you do have something here pre-selected, like for some reason Yup TV was already set as my app out of the box for some reason, if you hit the options button, you have the ability to move it around or remove it from your favorite shortcuts. So what I'm currently playing is the 4K HDR Wonder Woman Blu-ray. The reason it's blurred out is because YouTube has this copyright technology that whatever is being displayed, if it's copyrighted material, it'll ban the video, so that's why I have to blur it out. Basically what I want to do is just show you the options that are available. So I'm just going to quickly pause, and if I hit the options button while the Blu-ray is playing, you get a whole bunch of options. So one thing to keep in mind is that when you're hitting the fast forward button, it can only go as fast as 3x, which is pretty slow. If you hit the options button, you get a slew of options, which kind of makes up for it a little bit, and I'll explain why. You can adjust the audio video sync if for some reason the audio and video is out of sync. Bluetooth output, so maybe if you have headphones you want to switch over to, you can do that, which is great to have. You have scene selection, you can choose other options, you have closed captions for subtitles, title search, chapter search. All the options you want are in this tiny options menu. So if the source that you have is a 4K Blu-ray disc like I have, or say Netflix 4K content for example, it'll look fantastic. But that is also dependent on the TV or display that you have it projected on, of course. Now in terms of general speed performance, because this is a media player as well as a Blu-ray player, if you go to something heavy, Netflix is usually one of the heavier apps that are available. It's lightning fast. It's super fast, man. Like you saw how quickly that was, right? So loading up Hulu is a little bit slower, but still not bad performance. Now one thing that I noticed is kind of weird with the media player functionality of this Blu-ray player is that Hulu and Netflix takes more time to buffer and play a video. Now I thought maybe my internet was having trouble at the time, so I switched over to my NVIDIA Shield quickly and tried playing the exact same video with the exact same app. It loaded lightning fast. I switched back to this media player, same video will kind of be a bit sluggish. So for some reason the video streaming services in this app requires a bit more buffering, so you need a bit more faster internet if yours is a bit on the slower side. Kind of unfortunate and bizarre. But the interface itself is very easy to navigate, but also very boring at the same time. So it has a good and bad to it. Now there is also screen mirroring available in this Now, it's not exactly the most recent technology. A lot of Android devices are switching over to Chromecast Mirroring, whereas this is still using Miracast, which is a kind of a dated technology, if you want to say. It's about a couple of years old at this point. No one really uses it that often, and of course Apple doesn't really care about anyone else, so we're not going to count that. And the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is USB playback. So it does do pretty good in this regard. So I have two videos that I made for my YouTube channel. So it is able to play MP4 files and MKV files, both in H.265 and H.264 compression. I was really surprised about this, and I'm quite pleased, as it's kind of rare to find in some media players. But yeah, it is able to play those type of formats. Of course, if you hit the options button, you get a slew of options available. And once again, if you do hit the options button, you do get a bunch of options over on the right side. And if the particular media file that you have has subtitles, you also get the ability to enable them just here over at the bottom. But the weird thing is, once again, you're limited to 3x fast forward, even on a USB file, for example, which is completely bizarre to me. I'm not sure why that has that limitation, even on a USB file. So for those of you who might be wondering about network playback, it is possible. It's not exactly hidden, but you have to go to the All Apps section, and over here at the bottom you have Media Server. I wish it was kind of attached to the Favorites section, but nonetheless, you have the ability to go over to your home media servers. So my example, I have video, and it does work pretty good. I'm surprised about this. So I'm using my Plex server, and it is able to list all the directories. Again, it's not exactly the best looking user interface, but I am able to list all the directories. I'm not going to get into them because some of it's private videos, but it is able to play even 4K files that are an MP4 H.264 compression over the network, which again is nice to have as well. For the most part, Sony did a pretty solid effort with this 4K Blu-ray media player. It plays 4K HDR content, it looks great. It plays a lot of video formats, it has a lot of video streaming services, well, the most popular ones at least, but it has some weird weaknesses. The remote is not comfortable at all, the physical appearance of the device is not the best, and of course the interface itself is really lacking. It looks completely horrible and dated, especially considering that their regular Blu-ray media players that I reviewed a couple of years ago looked a lot better in terms of physical design and interface design. And let's not forget that for some reason it takes a lot more internet buffering, a lot more speed to use those streaming services apps like Netflix and Hulu. So if you guys found this video useful, be sure to check out my social links in the video description, subscribe, hit that like button, it does help, and thanks for watching.